Hey guys, today I had the opportunity to interview Matt from OKX. He's the head of product marketing over there and he's working on so many cool things. I thought I'd share this interview with you. He shared a lot of alpha about the Bitcoin ecosystem and his trading strategies and stuff like that. So make sure you tune in and watch till the end. All right, let's get it. I'm doing all right. I put all my conviction plays into ordinals and runes. So now I'm like, damn, what's going on?
Yeah, I have a lot of conviction bags in ordinals and runes as well. I think we probably, everyone says early. Yeah, still early. But I think some of the thesis around the market accepting, new token standards on Bitcoin, I think we have yet to prove out that thesis is actually correct to some degree, right? There's absolutely, and I have to give credit. I mean, you're rocking the Ordinals World Tour shirt. There's a community in Ordinals that is unmatched in terms of the passion and the intelligence, of collectors and the overall communities there. I'm super proud and happy to be. I love my Ordinals fam, I really do. But the bags, I can't say the bags are really, doing the work that the conviction is doing. But it's still fun. I'm not gonna lie, still fun. Great place to hang out in these communities for Ordinals. I love it. That's where we met, man. Well, we actually met a long time ago. Or passing the D-Gods. Oh, still NFTs, right? D-Gods community. That was 2 years ago, 2+ years ago, probably. It's a long time.
Damn. Yeah, and I still hold 2 BTC gods.
I gotta get one. I actually want to pick one up, to be honest. I think I want to get one. I don't know why I would spend my Bitcoin on that at this moment.
I don't know why.
But no, I think, the way that Frank the team executed that mint and the inscription on a single block, it was ahead of the time, way ahead of its time. And I think looking back, there will be value accrued in that execution, and people will find value, will price that accordingly, I think, eventually. But yeah, it's actually really hard. I talk with a lot of folks, and I'm talking with folks all the time in different parts of the crypto world. And, I think everyone's having a bit of a trying to figure out the situation moment where Bitcoin's doing God's work, and absolutely love the orange coin, right? And today, it depends on when you guys see this interview, but, it's a new all-time high today. And it's been a chop market, but we're reaching all-time highs. And Trump coming into office, there's a lot of catalysts that I think are going to be favorable for the market and adoption overall. But this cycle has been quite interesting in terms of adoption on, I would say, alternative assets like meme coins and, other non-utility based crypto, which traditionally has always been utility, like DeFi. And then we had NFT staking, then NFTs, which had some, I'll give community as utility, which led to meme coins. And I think we're in an interesting place in the belief cycle of crypto, but of course, Bitcoin still doing the work there.
Do you think we're at the beginning of the bull run, or where do you think we're at?
In my personal opinion, I think we've seen, 2024, Bitcoin was the strongest asset among all asset classes in terms of returns. And so I think we probably started that trend post FTX and Bitcoin bottoming 15K range. And from there, we've really only seen up and upward movement on Bitcoin, which we assume would be rolling into other sectors within the crypto space, but hasn't yet still after, we'll call it, 16 months plus, right? So I would say we definitely are in the mid throes of this cycle, if not to the second half into the second quarter. We're definitely in the third quarter, in my view. If we're playing the game, we're in third quarter, bro. Maybe early third quarter. I don't know. Hope maybe, this halftime show. I think maybe this situation in the U.S. with the new regime and everything, that might be the halftime show. And we'll see. I know it's a bit sad to think about, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm coping because I feel like we're in the first inning,
You never know, right? If we look at the macro, we're going into the third year of an equities bull market, right? And third year of equities bull markets tend to be still up, but flat, and definitely don't see the same returns that we've seen, previously. I think retail, if you look at equities, the retail is sort of hype and is quite high still and actually gaining. And so if we take comparable to the equities market, I think we're pretty much in the middle. we ain't the beginning, I'll tell you that much. I don't think it's the beginning. But it depends on your view, right? Cycles are depending on when you start and stop. Generally speaking, it's an upward trend. And we haven't seen any breakdown in that trend. So we're definitely in it though.
Oh man, that's kind of, I don't know. You know me, last time we talked, I was like BC to a milli, right? So
I'm on your side for that one, man. It just depends on your time frame, right? You and Uncle Mike, I think you guys have the right idea. I've been in this space for many years now, and my conviction on the technology and the global adoption and the problems that we eventually and are currently starting to solve in some meaningful ways are really going to change the world. And they are. And I think price is something we stick to because of the speculative nature of some of the assets that we see now. But, I see a lot of the builders. We have, OKX, we have a developer program, we have developer tools, and we're focusing heavily on developers and we've always been developer and builder focused, and continue to see really, really strong developer and builder communities focusing on problems. Big one coming up is payments. I think we will start to see payments really start to shift to some level of payments start to shift into the global crypto world. And also definitely some of the tokenization, real world assets and things along those lines. And to your point around Bitcoin being 1 million, I can't say 1 million, 5 million. I don't know. 200,000 seems more reasonable as a potential bet. But the technology behind it and the belief in it, and Bitcoin ends up being a belief system on top of what hopefully becomes an actual global currency system. So I think we're still really, in that case, early. But if we're looking at our bags, I don't know. I've got to make sure we make the right moves over the next, year or so, I think.
Yeah, I spend a lot of these days thinking, man, I should have sold this asset back then.
I tell people selling is freedom. I think no matter what point, I don't sell shame. I have a lot of groups I'm in. I'm a trader. I started my journey as a trader. And so I've learned that selling is freedom, and you never have, it is a point where you can just sell and feel okay about it. I think people always think it has to be the perfect trade, right? Or the perfect conviction play, but it's never that. And the hardest part about this space, or generally crypto, or anytime you're sort of holding and buying and selling assets, is just knowing when to get out, right? When to make that decision to move away from an asset and take profit, or to sell, right? And this space makes it hard. Same thing with equities and others, but you're supposed to buy when it's not looking good, right? You're supposed to kind of when it doesn't feel good, you want to buy, and you got to sell when it feels really good. And those are intuitively, those are really difficult emotions to deal with as a person. But as a trader, you get used to it, and you kind of just look at the charts, and you look at the technicals, you look at the market, and you go, okay, I'm going to set myself free. I'm going to sell. I'm going to let go.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, I usually just tell myself greed is the enemy of profit, but then I get greedy anyway. So
it's a strange, I think it's on my phone, my saying this year is, in the end, it's you versus you, right? That's my fundamental belief when it comes to these emotional and financial decisions at times. Always focusing on trading responsibly, not going and putting myself in a situation. And that's, I think a super important element of understanding a trading system, or even just being in the market and to any degree, is just knowing how much you're willing to lose and how much you're willing to put on the table, and understanding the system that you're playing. But yeah, in the end, you have to make these decisions, and it's just you. It's you versus you. Of course, you're trading against others, and there's a market there as well, but it's your decision, and it's really tough at times, of course.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I've made so many bad trades. It's crazy. Yeah.
I can't start, bro. Don't talk about my P&L. I start new wallets, main trading wallets, just because I don't want to look. And I have a trading journal where I take those wallets and I analyze it. I did that maybe 3 months ago. And I was like, what did I do in 2024? What? I was like, it was good. It was good. It wasn't bad. But it was some of the losses. See, the thing is the losses that are the ones that you look back on and you're like, that was something specific or something particular happened there, where I'm like, there was a decision tree that I went through that was not the right one, right? Took the wrong path. And you're like, I got to figure that out. So actually, I enjoy that part of being in this market, whether it's teas or whatnot, which I'm really terrible at trading. I just hold. I think it's like burning money when I buy them. I'm like, I'm just going to burn this and I'll keep it, because I'm terrible. I'm so bad at that. But it's looking back at when you're looking at your portfolio and your assets and saying, hey, how well did I do? Did I follow my trading system? Was I trading responsibly? And was I trading towards a target, right? Or was I just having a hobby? Hobby trading is a different thing than trading with the system and knowing, hey, I got a plan, versus, hey, this is fun, right? And there's a line you have to kind of realize between those as well.
Damn. Yeah, that is not, I guess all I've been doing is hobby trading, but
I realize at times, I have Post-its and stamps. I have all this stuff, classic trader stuff, where it's take profit. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll leave a Post-it in my bathroom on my mirror that says take profit. Because you have to just reinforce these pieces that it's you have to play your system, understand when to do that. And in this cycle, we're still in this in-between place, this space where I don't think we've seen the euphoria part of the cycle yet, where you're the best trader in the world because everything goes up. And you feel you're like, man, I can't do any wrong. It's never going to go down. And those are the times where you get humbled quite quickly, because you're not trading a system, you're trading momentum, and that's a whole different story when the party stops and you don't have a seat. So
yeah, I think that's what I've been waiting for, is the euphoria stage, because until now I've just been loading up my bags with all these ordinals and runes and just feeling like Michael Burry,
in the basement rocking out
and my mom's like, hey,
the market's wrong. You're like, it's true. I'm not wrong, bro. No way. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So every time I see my mom, she's asking me how my ordinals are doing, and I'm just like,
that's brutal.
don't ask. Not yet.
That's brutal. I was gonna say behind you, I saw this before. I want to bring it up. Man, what was the name of that collection?
Satoshiables.
Dude, I had so many. I do still have. I'm sure I have so many of those.
Nice.
They're fantastic. One of my favorites, man. Love the
It's
art.
my first one.
Really?
Yeah, it's the one that kind of ruined me and got me into the whole league.
Bro, think about the friendships. Think about the friendships and the adventures you've had. Not the money, man.
Yeah.
Don't start.
Yeah. All those 7-figure friendships.
It's like, yeah, friendships are better than, a house in Bali.
Yeah.
Right? Who
Yeah,
cares?
exactly. Yeah.
No. I hear you, man. I hear you.
I did want to talk about OKX as well. I know you guys have been heavy into ordinals and runes for a while, BRC20s. So say I want to launch a collection. This is also like personally, I did speak to someone on your team about launching a collection. Why should I launch with you guys instead of somewhere else?
Yeah, so the first part of the question is like at OKX, we've specifically been believers in Bitcoin for a long time. The exchange, as we're commonly known, and we've evolved beyond an exchange to be, a pretty widely used Web3 platform, exchange, wallet, developer. But we actually started as one of the first Bitcoin exchanges, right? And that's where we've been around for a long time. And following that sort of path of seeing Bitcoin, we've integrated Lightning, one of the first exchanges to integrate Lightning in our exchange. And then when we saw the Bitcoin innovation happening, we really jumped on board. And we supported Ordinals early, and we supported runes at the halving as well. And we've continued to build and grow with that community. Most recently, like you mentioned, we released our Ordinals Launchpad. This Launchpad is, I think, one of the things the market is missing because it's really creator and focused and friendly. The way it works is say you want to launch your collection. And for those folks who try to understand how Ordinals mints might work, typically you'd have to pre-inscribe a collection, which you take your whole collection, you take all the art, you inscribe it onto the blockchain to Bitcoin first, then you take it to a Launchpad. And there's a tricky thing about inscribing and figuring all those elements out. What we've done is we've sort of abstracted that away and built a system where the minter actually inscribes instantly when mint is happening. And so as a creator, you can just come to our Launchpad with the art that you want to mint as a collection. And our system actually manages that art. And then when the mint happens, the minter actually inscribes directly. So that inscription, that pre-inscribing element is actually not needed, which is a big hurdle for new creators, new folks coming into the space who try to figure out how to actually, mint an Ordinals collection and launch it. The second piece is, I think, for us, not only we really focus on creators, so it's having low fees. So our fees are generally the lowest for launchpads in the market, but also the network that we have at OKX and on our wallet. We have a massive existing user base that we want to introduce Ordinals to. We want to introduce our Bitcoin to. And so we push quite heavily and love to market and partner with creators who are coming to our Launchpad and share that collection and hopefully get new audience for that project. So I think those sort of two elements stand out to me. That's what really excited me about it, was it's like lowers the barrier for creators to come and actually launch a collection. And then it also not only saves on the cost to do so, but then there's this whole new network and audience that we want to help bring into the ordinal space from OKX that is introduced to this collection. So if you do want to launch one, man, let me know. We'd love to work with you on one.
Awesome. I haven't inscribed yet, but say I did already have the entire collection inscribed already. Would I still be able to launch with you guys?
Currently, no. And actually, the reason why is, we really believe in this idea of a non-custodial system. And so the way we want to sort of build is to allow for minters or projects to come with us with the art, minters to come and inscribe during the mint. And so there actually is no middleman. We actually just built a system that allows for the art from the project and the minter to come together and inscribe at that moment. Again, going back to this idea of trustless system. When you work with us, we don't take any control of your assets as a creator or a project. And I think that's an important element to sort of highlight. But the drawback of that is, currently a lot of folks are pre-inscribing, and there are some elements of benefits around pre-inscribing, of course, right? You have your own ability to add certain things like attributes and ensure you mint on certain sats, which we're working on supporting. You can sort of inscribe at a low point where the block fee is very low, right? And so you could potentially manage your costs that way. But yeah, there's always a trade-off between the way you approach. But for us, we believe in sort of a non-custodial way of introducing just a system or just the tech to do the work rather than taking on any of your custody of the assets for the project.
Are you guys also working on parent-child inscriptions?
Yeah, this is a big request and ask for projects, and we've taken it up. We actually just did a dive on how to pull this off. And I think we have a pretty good idea of potential way of doing so. Currently, it's not offered within the Ordinals launchpad on OKX, on the wallet, but something that I think is number one on our feature request and something that I think we really want to do. I really wish we had it because there's some collections out there that you guys know, you know who you are, that I want to launch with us, but we're trying to figure out the right way to do that. And we're actually actively working on developing that feature.
That's awesome. And what kind of marketing support can a collection expect from OKX?
Yeah, I mean, if you check our handle, we have both wallet, our global handles are quite large. And so we push heavily on social. So we love to do things like spaces. We've been covering each with our blog, which goes out to our large readership. We have over 50 million users worldwide. And so a lot of what we do generally, as being known as an exchange and sort of branching out and successfully growing our Web3 business with our wallet and developers, we're introducing a lot of the on-chain elements to a retail-focused audience that has traditionally used centralized exchanges. And so working with us and bringing a collection to us allows us to take that collection, that story, and bring it to that large user base. So we tap into things like our newsletter, we talk about social, we write blogs and all those pieces to go out in support of the collection. And then we also have our Creators Collective, which turns out you're part of, which I'm very, very happy about. And we will hopefully be growing this year as well. But we have a community that we're building and growing of really passionate folks who are in this space who can help guide projects on what to do and help them be successful. So it's a number of elements, but I think we put together a pretty good formula as a creator. When you step in to work with OKX and launch your Ordinals collection, there's a lot of levels of support as well as a lot of attention that's brought to that collection. So we're still early, but we've seen some really success with the mints that we've done so far. So yeah, really excited about 2025. Hopefully Ordinals market tends to, rising Bitcoin raises all ships. You know what I mean? I'm thinking we're going to see a nice Ordinals run this year, hopefully. And that would be a great thing to bring more creators on board through our launchpad.
Yeah, I was thinking that an ordinal, like Ordinals have never seen a bull run, like a proper bull run. So this would be the first. And it is my hope still that we see the same thing for Ordinals that we saw for ETH NFTs last cycle.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. I don't know how realistic.
Depends on how we think about up, right? In my view, I think, being in the space long enough and seeing how new standards are introduced, you tend to have that initial speculation, not sure how to price it. And you get that big boom. You saw that with BRC20. We saw that early with some Ordinals. And then you have that tail part where you get long tail and then you figure out, okay, maybe this is really what it's useful for. I think we're at that point. The question is the point where we're coming to like, hey, we have a core community on Ordinals. There is one. And there is some repricing going on within those assets. And it's a question of what is the right price for those assets? I think the market will decide. But of course, the question is there enough liquidity that is in the market with interest to flow into this market for Ordinals? We've already seen, if you look at ETH NFTs and Solana NFTs, right? They've really had their time in the sun and it looks like maybe it'll come back. But currently, they're also looking at repricing of where they're at, right? Of course, there are some standouts. You look at, obviously, CryptoPunk's not going anywhere. Pudgy, and Luca and the team and what they're doing with launch of Abstract and obviously Pengu. There's builders who are building in Pudgy floor. I don't know. I didn't check, but it was over 20 ETH, this past week. So there are, then we look at what Udi's doing with QC and Quantum Cats. He's not slowing down. And so we've seen some really strong interest in certain collections, certain assets. But I think, general Ordinals bull run. Man, we're still waiting for alts to wake up. We're at yearly lows on some of these alts, so multi-year, still bear market lows. So I think, again, it's one of those things where conviction is something we should always have and something you believe, but also not hold it so close to the chest that you're like, okay, I don't want to make a move when it makes sense,
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like I just ledgered all my conviction bets and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to look at these.
That's the best way to do it. I'm not going to lie. But you should, one thing I do, and I journal and understand what I'm doing. You check in, say, hey, every 3 month, quarter, half year, when you see a cycle happening, you check in and you go, that's the hardest part, right? You check in and you go, is my thesis, is my belief, is my conviction as strong as it was previously? Because you can have conviction the point where your portfolio doesn't do what it's supposed to do, Narratives are important, massive. This is a hugely narrative-driven market now, more than anything. In previous cycles, we saw a lot of tech and utility-driven dynamics in the market, right? With DeFi and a lot of the innovation that came out through DeFi and protocols that we're building, either new L1s, L2s, all these things, right? But now you're looking at narratives, and there's always a narrative there, but it might have been multiple narratives that could have their time to shine. But now we're seeing narrative massive rotation as a very big element of what's happening in the market, with liquidity moving from place to place, and some chains and some chains and ecosystems really looking like they're taking over compared to others. And so as you look at it, you're like, oh, what's the narrative? Where's the liquidity going? And this has been a really tough cycle so far to really nail that. I think I was telling my friends, it's been a lot of hero or zero trades for so far. And those are tough nights. Those are tough nights at times,
Yeah. I mean, I missed Trump coin too. I saw it at 3 mil and I was just like,
massive, huh? Right. Interesting. Whole interesting situation there. But no, I think I think is a potential paradigm shift in the thinking of, where we're at. Again, I don't know what the future holds because this is completely uncharted territory for, I guess by the time you see this interview, will be the president of the United States. And it's a completely different world we live in if we think about it that way. I'm just excited to see that, we continue to onboard more and more folks, no matter the outcome and no matter what happens. I think I saw this morning that something like 700K new Solana users were onboarded just with either through moonshots or others, just with this token launch alone, which is fantastic in the sense that, hey, we're seeing more folks coming in and being exposed to this market, hopefully learning about the assets that they're getting and how that works. And ideally some level of self-custody to understand like that's their right and help drive. And I do think the narrative overall of this idea of how does crypto adoption evolve with America potentially being a front runner and changing its stance and its policy is potentially massive. But of course, you never know how these things play out. We'll still be here. The trenches will still be here. We'll be through it. But it's a question of, what happens when retail and larger level adoption happens through meme coins, right? It's I kind of love the concept for sure. But I also think people need to obviously trade responsibly when it comes to getting into any asset that they are new to. So one thing with us, we've this past week and the weekend, we planned a whole education series around meme coins and all these things that you need to understand when playing in this space and holding these type of assets. And so we're going to be launching an education series this week to hopefully target and let these new folks know and help them understand the sort of new space that they've entered. But I think it's a net positive. We'll see. Time will tell if that's the right outcome.
I do think it's a net positive, but why couldn't they have launched it as a rune,
I love it. The optimism, eternal optimism. I love it. No. I mean, if we think about the L1 battle, right? Clearly, Solana has been outperforming Ethereum as a preferred choice for on-chain activity. And I will give Solana a ton of credit because, even with this most recent launch for the Trump token, I don't know that I had the number in my mind. I can't remember it now, but it's done all-time high in transactions and TPS. And previously, Solana used to get knocked for going down and not being able to handle this type of throughput. And they've done a fantastic job, no hiccups. And so I think that's proven that L1 can scale to retail masses and handle on-chain transactions and sort of speed and reliability that you need to scale. I would take that as a huge win and almost to the point where it's a de facto, hey, Solana can scale. And it's sort of proven at this point. But it is one of those situations where you're looking at, where are people putting their attention between L1s? We have Bitcoin L1 and runes as a standard. I think amazing novel standard on Bitcoin. But it's a question of, if you look at Bitcoin versus Solana versus ETH and some of the alternatives that are coming up like Sui and Aptos and others who are vying for attention, there's a lot out there. So hard to say, hey, we all get a piece of the pie. Liquidity tends to flow and pool in certain places and in mass. And Solana has been really great at doing that for the past cycle, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I love Solana. Solana and Bitcoin are my biggest conviction bets because it just makes sense even from a tech point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree with you in certain ways, and the market looks like it's agreeing. Generally speaking, we had, I guess it would be 19th of January was the last all-time high for Solana, what it tapped 295 on OKX. So that's massive, right? And Bitcoin, again, choppy from, mid-December through January, but looks like it's found a path where it's holding above 100K and the market's deciding which assets are performing the best. And if you look at on-chain transactions, it looks like in DEX volume and trading volume, it's very clearly that Solana has really taken the lion's share of all of the on-chain activity so far. So those are good convictions. I love the fact that everyone keeps building. I know the Aptos team is quite active, Sui. There are a lot of other folks out there who are building quite aggressively and have really interesting stacks. Near, for instance, which also is tapping into the Bitcoin ecosystem. And so there's a lot going on. And I really do hope, and it'll happen eventually, whether it's priced right, I don't know. These chains and these other sort of ecosystems will really start to find footing. Base, for instance, as a L2 doing quite well. There's just so much stuff out there that it's hard to say, okay, which one is the right one, but the market prices will tell you, which one what the market chooses.
It's not Ethereum. No.
Right now, we have a situation. I mean, I'm a huge believer in Ethereum, and I'm a massive fan of Vitalik, and I think it's not going to go anywhere. I think these a lot of times, folks, anytime you have new technology or folks in the space who are maxis tend to be like, this is going to die. Ordinals are going to die. Everything's going to die. Likely don't die. Some things do, of course, but I don't think Ethereum's on any sort of life support at this point. I think we're going to see that ecosystem shine again. And there's just so much utility. And especially as we look at DeFi and AI are coming together, and they have the infrastructure on the ETH, whether it's on mainnet or layer twos, they have the infrastructure in place to really manage and scale DeFi effectively. So I'm not super worried about ETH, but I think it's a question of where does each one fit, right? Where does everything fit? They all can't do the same thing. So as the market matures, the technology matures, you start to find these winners around use case. And I think ETH will find its place within DeFi. And of course, developers will still flock to ETH as a home to build.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking Solana would own DeFi in the future. It was my hope that Bitcoin would own the JPEG space. And I was like, you know what? ETH needs to find a new use case.
Well, I mean, the fight's not over and you never know, of course, but yeah. And of course, there will be uses on DeFi like Solana. I mean, Meteora is probably the best, in my view, one of the best LP protocols by far, liquidity protocols. I love using Meteora. I think it's fantastic. Nice. So I do think DeFi will absolutely live and thrive on Solana. And I just think it also can live and thrive on Ethereum in different ways. And we'll see. I mean, I've been around the space for a long time. I was laughing with a buddy. We were looking at all the all-time highs when Bitcoin is happening and what tokens were in the top 10. And you just laugh because you're like, this token that everyone was saying was the number one next best thing just disappears, right? And I think someone like Ethereum and Solana have proven, over the past 6-7 years and 5-6 years that they really are here to stay, and their ecosystems have different offerings to bring to users and developers. So I think there will be a bit of room for both. I don't mean they both won't survive. I think there's room for both. But I don't know about the Bitcoin one. I'm on the train. I'm on the train as well. I do think art on Bitcoin is a fantastic value proposition when it comes to art on Bitcoin. That to me is such a strong value proposition. And I do believe, as we see the trend of adoption for Bitcoin continue, as art and Bitcoin go super well together from a narrative standpoint, and the technology backs it up being inscribed on chain. I do think that's where we'll see some real big winners, but we haven't seen the demand for art on chain yet. But I do think that use case is super, super strong.
Yeah, I mean, especially with rare sats too, and there are layers of gamification for Bitcoin that we don't really consider for other chains. But yeah, speaking of ordinals, on a personal level, what are your favorite collections?
I'm a Ordinals maxi, so I'm a OMB. That's probably my home, at least and it's been my home since kind of coming into the Ordinal space. Tony as an artist is fantastic. The artist just vibes with me, and ZK in terms of the way he thinks and what is sort of the future is, like he gets it. And that to me, in the community around Ordinals, MaxiBiz and OMB is really a community that I embrace and has embraced me. But on top of that, I think there are so many good communities on Ordinals. It's like almost too many. I'm also a big Based Angels guy. So I think the Based Angels are mad and I love it. And the whole community is just fantastic. Yeah, I think they're probably my most fun place to hang out, fun Discord to hang out is Based Angels. Yeah. On top of that, I do have to always give a shout out to Pizza Ninjas. I do think that what Trevor and the team there does for folks who haven't had a chance to go to a Bitcoin Ordinals event, those are really fun. Pizza Ninjas always shows up super cool and super well in real life at these events. And I've been a huge fan of that community and that work. How about yourself, man? I know you must have a few BTCD gods, I'm sure. And then
Yeah, I minted too. So, but one of the BTC gods I have, I paid like 26K for it.
Yeah, that'll happen.
That'll happen.
So. That's what I'm saying. You don't look at the numbers. You don't look at the numbers. You just tap the button and you say, "That's mine." And no one's gonna ever buy it again. That's mine. I'll keep it.
Yeah, they're grails, right?
That's it. That's all you got to do.
But yeah, Quantum Cats, I'm a massive...
I should give a shout out to Udi for sure, of course. Quantum Cats. Don't tell anybody. I have yet to buy a Quantum Cat. I've been planning and trying for so long, but just always drop fumble the bag on that one. I will though. I will. I guarantee I will. I guarantee I will.
I wouldn't. I think Quantum Cats might be the first to get to 1 BTC again.
I could see it. Yeah. I mean, let's see if next year we get OpCat. I guess next year, dude, it's already next year. Okay. I'll say if this year we get OpCat and that becomes a mascot and they become a mascot for innovation, which they already are, but there's a real use case behind it. And again, I guess this goes back to our point, when does that attention move to Bitcoin? My personal experience and opinion is that there's a UX problem with folks coming back into the Bitcoin space, because a lot of the developers and communities who obviously were onboarded or at least were influenced by Bitcoin to some degree, right, saw that they couldn't do what they wanted to do functionality wise on Bitcoin. So these other chains found other ways. And obviously EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine, and what Vitalik introduced and ETH introduced is sort of the framework and backbone of a lot of functionality with smart contracts across obviously Ethereum and any of the EVM chains and a lot of other chains, obviously smart contracts. But Bitcoin, like runes and trading and all this stuff, even for me, and I'm marketing, I'm trying to introduce and tell a story to a lot of new folks coming in. There is a level of functionality, user experience that needs to step up one whole level, I think, in order to get the right people to say, this is something I want to spend my time doing, being part of. Because as soon as you hit one of these roadblocks where you ask, which kind of wallet address am I supposed to send this to? And I have to buy a block or I have to buy, a whole bunch of these things. It becomes part of a conversation that's harder to have. And I'm a smooth brain kind of guy. You want a smooth brain the way you communicate when it comes to tech. So I think that's why with OpCat, potentially, we would see some level of functionality and user experience that is akin to what people are trading on Solana and used to on Ethereum. And that's where I think it becomes more interesting. Liquidity will have less reason not to. But until then, I think we're going to have some issues to fix out on the UX side.
Yeah, until then, I feel like it's really for, I don't know, maybe like hobbyists or people who really want to explore the eco.
We call them early adopters. Come on, man. Early adopters, innovators, trendsetters. Is
that what we are?
Bag holders, shall we say.
Bag holders, early bag holders.
Yeah, but that's how I think the story of innovation tied to value has always sort of worked, in the sense where the folks who are early, and even, of course, the story of Bitcoin, right? The folks who are early enough to get past the really hard parts of, paying with the bank account and using, and I remember when PayPal was one of the first times I loved when PayPal started being able to use for Bitcoin. Geez, I can't remember 2012, 2013. It was amazing. Now you could buy Bitcoin without having to jump through 20 hoops. And, that was an important innovation and an important piece of access. I think we're still at some of those stages when you talk about these new standards. I give credit to OKX for accepting. I give folks like Magic Eden and others who have built really robust systems. There's a lot of guys out there, Saturn and what Hex is doing, Arch Network, all these folks who are building in this space. Ordzar, shout out to Nakib and the team, right? Building in this space, trying to fix that. Bitcoin. And there's lots of others who are building on Bitcoin who aren't maybe in the community, but there are a lot of other folks out there building Bitcoin that you meet and you talk to, and they have great ideas. But going back to is it the time where I can tell my friend who's trading on Solana to just, hey man, jump on your Bitcoin wallet and go trade this thing? It's hard, it's still hard for them to jump over. So we'll see. I'm very hopeful, but I do think there's some time needed for this ecosystem to mature from a functionality and user experience standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I have a bunch of my homies who are Solana OGs. They try Bitcoin and they're like, bro, what the fuck is this 10-minute block shit? It's crazy. Yeah.
It makes us think, what are you doing, man? What are we doing? No, you know what I mean? I guess that was the point I was trying to make, was that, when you are early, that is the risk reward that you take on. And one piece obviously is asset value and what that goes. But the other piece I think is I can guarantee that some of the people you've met and what you've seen and been involved with has given you a lot of value, right? And you might have guided into certain things. I see that 100%, especially with the Bitcoin community, because it's some of when you talk about OGs, there are people here who we're meeting and who have been building at Bitcoin for a long time. And all the folks coming on are some of the smartest folks who are trying to solve these big problems because they believe so strongly, and I do as well, in the mother chain and what Bitcoin represents. So I think it's one of those, it's a conviction bet, but it's one of those that I think, looking at your timeline, there will be something that you can look back and say, oh, there's value here that I was early to. Yeah. And that's the story of Bitcoin. As I mentioned, that's the story of a lot of things. You mentioned the Trump token. If you were up and you were early and you saw it and decided to buy it, right, you were like, oh, okay, I got early. It's the same story over and over again. I think the time horizon on conviction play for Ordinals and Bitcoin ecosystem and innovation, I think that's just a matter of time until we see there's something really strong there.
I'm sure you feel the same way about runes, right?
I kind of feel the same way about runes.
Oh, you got mixed feelings about
I think my personal view is I have probably stronger conviction in the art on Bitcoin and the inscribing art on chain than I do about fungible tokens. Unless the user experience, the fundamental difference in my view is it's a simple value proposition for somebody who wants to buy a fungible token on chain. They actually probably don't care what chain it's on. They just want to see that token go up, or they want to have some utility associated with it, potentially if it's, say it's DeFi or offering some sort of yield. And I think we've yet to offer, I think the Runes protocol has yet to offer the market a competitive version of fungible token trading. And so if Runes was as simple user experience as Solana, I think we would probably have a pretty good shot at having shared liquidity. As you're seeing Base, competing directly with Solana now because the user experience is quite similar. And, developers can build, there's obviously differences building in those ecosystems, but they can offer similar protocols. They can offer similar products to users. Whereas I think within Runes, it's not a similar or comparable experience yet. So my view, and don't get me wrong, I could open my wallet. I got so many illiquid Runes. It's like I'm a big Runes guy too, And I love the community, people building. It's fun. It's so fun, right? And I think that's what happens. It's community as utility, right? You meet a lot of folks, you have a good time. But the ecosystem is still, I think, early to evolve. And we'll see. I think that's more competitive than Ordinals, definitely. Until someone like you mentioned, Trump decides to launch a Rune and there's enough liquidity and it makes sense to buy, then maybe it changes. But ecosystem, in my view, is still quite immature and needs to fix some things.
So I know OKX listed dog perps a while ago.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Is that how did that happen?
How did that happen? Well, sir, technically they pushed some buttons and the buttons happened. No, I can't speak directly to listings and the strategy and what we do. We have some guidelines on what we look for in force projects that have hit a certain critical mass of community growth and demand that makes sense to offer at the global level to a large user base. And I think, Dog met that criteria, at least for our perp standard. And the Runes community I love what Leonidas did and continues to do for the community. I have a ton of Rune stones and some were given, some were bought. Nice. And I think that as a champion, so it's a great token for the community to be behind. And for us, the perps listing was part of what we think is the right offering right now. I do hear a lot of the communities ask around other Runes and other listings. And I hear a lot of communities asking for listings and whatnot. What I can say is that we review everything. We see the market quite clearly. We make very specific decisions on what's the right time, what's the right momentum, what's the right fit for OKX as a market. And that's how we make those decisions. But what actually happened, I don't know. I think these people press some buttons and, they add some this and add some of that. And then you get yourself a market,
Can we expect spot dog in the future?
I can't tell you, sir. Can we expect? Sir, I like my job well enough.
You can't even give us a hint.
Of course, I can't speak to any future token listings. What I can say is that what matters is the market growing, is the token in the community growing, right? Is it getting the attention that would warrant something to be listed and offered at the global scale? For us at OKX, we take not only compliance very, very seriously, but we think about what we offer to our users and thinking, hey, is this the responsible thing for us to do, right? And so some people consider OKX to be somewhat conservative in our listing strategy. And that's because we think quite clearly about, hey, is this the right token to list and offer at the right time? And that's a hard thing to do. But again, I think for communities that are always looking for token listings, it's really something about, are you growing? Are you seeing that momentum? And I think at the right time, listings do happen. So I do think about the Runes community and saying, hey, with the UX issues that happen and, understanding that liquidity is someplace else, getting listed is a massive thing for that community. And I do think as we continues to grow, there will be opportunities for that. So,
oh man, I hope so. I think that's the biggest hurdle for Runes like Dog is not having enough mainstream exposure, especially because, like you said, Runes, the UX it's not good right now.
I talk to a lot of folks about this. They want to have the momentum, but they don't have the momentum. But if they had the momentum, they'd have the momentum. It's like, okay, we get it. But the reality is and this is another reason why on-chain, blockchain doesn't lie, right? On-chain doesn't lie. If you look at volume, you look at holders, you look at growth, you look at all these metrics, right? We track everything. I track everything personally. And you can see trends and you can see where interest is and isn't. And so I think there's two parts to that, understanding as where that momentum and what makes sense to offer the market as a centralized offering. And then the second part is thinking about that community and is that the right community? Are they growing and are they doing it in a genuine way? And I think we have a lot of that on Bitcoin, but you look at the other element around just on-chain activity and just the level of liquidity going into the ecosystem, it's quite hard to see that growth. So yeah, chicken and egg type situation. But again, Bitcoin all-time high. I'm hopeful that we start to see a shift in the way that, Bitcoin liquidity and adoption happens. Again, as I said before, I think it's a timeline or it's a when, not so much if, but again, can't tell you the future. I wish I could, man. I would have probably bought a lot of other stuff than what I got right now.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but all good. We march on, right?
Of course. And that's the fun in it, right? That's the fun in it. I have a lot of friends who are really, really great traders, and their focus is their P&L. And of course, I'm a P&L trader as well, but that's what they're in here for. But for me, and I think a lot of folks within the circles that we talk to, there's a lot of elements of community that are super important. And again, I think Bitcoin has, arguably maybe the best community out there for folks who are even in ordinals or not in ordinals. Just Bitcoin community is just so strong in Asia. It's obviously massive, but to Latin America and the Americas, or Latin America specifically, massive. And so again, I think it's a win. If some parts can be fixed around access is a huge piece. If some parts can be fixed, then it's more of a question of why not for folks who are doing things in other places to come and build, or come and bring a liquidity, or come and enjoy some of the communities that exist on Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm still optimistic. I'm a realist, but I'm still optimistic, I would say.
Same. I guess at this point I gotta be optimistic. No, but like for real though, I do believe art on Bitcoin is the best.
Oh, I would love to just see the Louvre, see like an OMB in the Louvre at some point, where it's like this, and you can check the chain and be like, this thing isn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? And I could see that. I do think that's such a fun and simple and clear use case. And the community being built around the art on Bitcoin is actually, I could see that as a massive opportunity. I would invest in businesses that are doing this for sure, who are thinking about how do you get more of the art culture and community to come onto Bitcoin. I think that's going to be a massive element of growth for the chain. And I think as an asset class for ordinals, that's going to be probably the piece that is like the centerpiece, in my view. It's sooner or later. And that's why I've been collecting, and I enjoy meeting. And again, for our launchpad, we want to empower creators to come on, and artists to come on and be able to put their art on chain and offer it to minters and build a community for themselves. So yeah, I'm bullish. That's probably like, pull it out. That's the piece I'm most bullish on.
Nice. So before we close, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any alpha we should know about? Anything about OKX?
No, I think the one thing that I'm probably most excited about, aside from the market and where we're at, and I just think we're at this point where there is a lot of positive momentum for the space overall. And I think there's a generation of folks like us who have kind of, I won't say grown up on chain, but have embraced it to the point that it's part of our identity. And this year at OKX, the one thing that I'm really focused on is to help build a global community around that on-chain identity, around that generation who was embraced and sort of built on chain. And so one of the programs that is going to be quite instrumental in that is our Creators Collective. We've launched another program called Alpha Traders, which we're going to scale globally, and really building a layer of community on top of all the sort of amazing products and offerings that OKX already has. And I think that's the one piece that for me is going to be super fun. And I think for our users and for the communities out there, we're going to bring a ton of value to individuals and communities alike in 2025. So my biggest conviction is OKX community building in 2025, and I'm excited to really get after that. So you're a part of it. I love that. And I think we're going to invite a lot more folks to join us on this journey. And for me, that's going to be the most exciting part.
That's awesome. Yeah, I learned a lot being part of the collective so far. And it is really fun to jam with other creators and figure out what they're looking at.
That's the alpha, the alpha. I think the alpha is the community and meeting people and just being able to interact and sort of cross paths with a lot of folks. I mean, we have these sort of digital friendships, these online friendships and communities that are built, but there's so much good value being created individually and then collectively, which is why we've created this collective. Collectively, it's like, oh, wow, there's all this stuff we can do together. And I think that's that piece that is really the most exciting part for me. And I think it's going to be the most exciting part for folks in the community as, OKX, we really focus on that in 2025.
Nice. Thanks for the chat, Matt. We'll hopefully do this again sometime.
Yeah, man. Reporting live from the DGen Report. Happy to be an anchor. You can bring me on full time. We could just
just jam.
We could just look at the news, talk shit about what's happening. I love it. This is awesome. And happy to come back anytime and appreciate you having me.
Awesome. All right, that was my interview with Matt from OKX, Head of Product Marketing. I learned a lot from this interview, and I hope you did too. Thanks for watching till the end. I'm your host, Valery Yoshi, and I'll catch you in the next one. You've been watching DGen Reports. Ciao.